Alright guys, we're back to working on Branden 77. Now before I rip into this, I just want to show you guys a few of these things that I found so far that were actually quite amazingly bad. So the plan is, if you look down here, you can see that this is where the harness is attached to the fuse block. So there's one half here and the other half here. I have one half right now, and I'm waiting on the second half for Branden to order that and send that to me. The reason why I want to do it is because everything in this engine bay needs to be ripped out and put back to where it's supposed to be, and I'll show you why. So, for example, here is the harness that goes to the headlights, and all the wires have all just been cut. Okay, so obviously that needs a new harness, but check this out. You have this wire that goes to the back of the alternator, and then you're supposed to have a wire, I believe this red one is supposed to attach here, and it wasn't. It was attached to the bottom to, I think, a temp sender or something in the block, like something that should not be. And so that makes me think that the rest of this harness is just super jacked up. Second, the main leads for the alternator, you have one big one that runs to these buses that are on top of the frame, and then another one, and then it branches off and attaches to this kind of janky looking motor. So I don't like that, and we will address that and rewire it the correct way. And then the second one runs from the alternator over to here through these buses and then down to the starter. And it's just like, why do you need these? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna unhook the harnesses from the firewall right here, and then I'm going to trace them all and then get rid of all the wiring in the front of the car, with the exception of, I'll show you, this AC harness. So this has aftermarket AC. I think it's a pretty expensive system. I don't plan on messing with that, but I believe this harness is a standalone harness. So basically it comes out here and then comes to here, and that's pretty much it. It might have a couple ground wires or a couple things like that that attach to it, but other than that, it can stay where it is. But what I want to do is just get rid of these kind of things. I mean, just not a good idea. There's duct tape stuck on the starter. But anyway, and there's other stuff like this. Like this is a tune trapper. It's basically like a hidden antenna, I guess, but it's been melted on the exhaust like 8 times. So I'm going to cut that out as well. Get rid of that. And just, yeah, we just have to do one thing at a time, and then install the new stuff. I almost forgot to show you, why was the front harness just hacked and cut off? Well, let me show you. It's because this is what it was connected to. So most of the front part is factory, then it goes into stuff like this, stuff like that. It's got 4 of these big ballasts, and it's got 4 different relays, and then who knows what the heck this is. This is like it runs off vacuum. I mean, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I think it might have run the headlights at one point. I don't know. It looks really, really crappy to me, but it's all going in the trash. And I'm glad somebody else got to cut that out, because there's nothing in there worth keeping at all. There's a bolt in the center of the harnesses, and they pretty much just unplug, and then I'm replacing the half that you don't see. But let me show you guys this. So, in pulling it out, I saw this beautiful piece of bubba ingenuity. You guys ready? That are 3 huge power wires held together with a hose clamp, and they was wrapped in electrical tape. Yes, that is the type of wiring that is on this car. It might be expensive to replace it, but you know what? It's better than having your car burned down. As we continue digging, I noticed that the speedometer cable is broken, and it's not connected to this. What this is the speed transducer. It's for your cruise control, but right now cruise control isn't working, and so I'm going to vote to remove it. And another reason being is because we have 4 vacuum hoses that end up just getting capped off and going to this transducer. And then one went to a cruise part that's no longer there, and the other one goes to the engine. So that's basically a vacuum hose that's right now not needed. We can put it back if we need to, but you see this is your vapor canister, and it's not plugged in at all. So there's no point in any of this stuff being in here if the vapor canister is not working. So right now I'm going to remove it, just give me some space so I can start taking out the engine harness. Alright, now I'm working on the other side of this harness, and the bubbiness continues. So check this out. This is the harness for the wiper motor. Good job with that. And then this is my favorite. This is for the tack. What kind of wire is that? I've never seen a wire like that, but that's not going to work very well. So that's got to go in the trash. And then also we have the wire, one of the main wires, let's see, this one, that's supposed to be bolted onto the starter, and look, they just looped it. It's just a piece of wire that they looped. It's so stupid. So that's got to go. We're going to get rid of that, and then the main harness can come out. Does this engine bay look better already? So both harnesses, the front light and the main engine harness, are both out, which means all the wires, I believe, are taken care of. There's a few exceptions. So since this has an aftermarket AC, we have basically a power block here and then a ground junction here. I didn't mess with that just because it should be a separate harness and it shouldn't hook into what's already in the car. So the only thing I don't know is there's a red wire right here that's supposed to power something for something, and I do not know what. But I'm going to leave all that aside and not touch any of it because it really doesn't affect the way the car runs at this point. So let's go to the other side. So there are a few wires I don't know what do. Basically, I focused on the wires that came off of the main harness. And if you look down here underneath, there's a little hole that somebody drilled that has wires coming out, and then where the speedo cable comes out, there's also wires that come out. So those have been, I've put them up here so I know where that I need to figure out where they go. I'm pretty sure they go to the switches and the weird stuff that's underneath the dash. The other thing that's really weird is this was connected to the speed transducer, so it's a factory plug, but why is it taped up with this big huge vacuum hose that I have no idea what goes to? Well, we're just gonna have to find out. Eventually I'll get to that. So I also have that draped up here so I remember to take care of it. So here it is, guys. Here's the damage. So, oh man, yeah, this is all the crap that I have stripped out of this engine bay that I believe is not needed at all. I mean, just throw it in the trash. That's what I'm going to do with it. So the next step will be putting in the two harnesses correctly, the brand new harnesses correctly that we have, and everything should plug and play like it's supposed to. From there, we can get the car started. Well, I need to figure out these wires as well, but then we can get the car started, running, hopefully tune it up. I mean, there's just a lot of problems with a lot of the stuff on this carburetor. There's a lot of vacuum lines are just capped off, that kind of thing. We can clean that up a little bit. We need to make sure that fan works, and we need to wire it up the correct way it's supposed to be wired up, which is a really simple thing, as long as you have a working temp switch. And other than that, yeah, we'll go from there. So lots of debubbification happening today. Very, very excited about how this engine bay looks without all that weird stuff everywhere. In the last clip, you saw all the wires that I yanked out of this engine compartment. And now I'm going to show you the new wiring. So, as you saw, it was just a ridiculous amount of bubba. I mean, more than I've ever seen in my life. But I have new and new. So there's two harnesses that go together on the back of the fuse box. There's your light harness and your engine harness. This is basically all the wires that run your engine. This is basically all the wires that run the lights and everything around the engine bay. So we'll start with the one that's less bubba. These are from Electric Limited. These are basically direct replacements for a wiring harness, which this car needed. They were expensive, but I mean, the quality is second to none. I mean, you can see, you know, instead of this, we have that. You know, instead of this one, we have that one. You know, it just goes up. I mean, this one matches that one matches that one. This one, I don't know where they cut it from, but it's incorrect. We can keep going down the harness here. So instead of this nasty 3 spliced plug thing, we have a brand new one. This brown wire that went to a blue wire, we have a beautiful brown wire. This pink wire that goes to the distributor, we have an even nicer one here. So this is the starter solenoid extension, so I have the extra one to that. But it's not even on here. I think if you look back down here, this wire is purple, and they kind of spliced it into this orange wire, which then terminates to nothing. And then these wires on the end, I know that these are supposed to be here. And guess what? They're, I think they go on the alternator, maybe? We'll see. Oh no, these go on the starter. What am I talking about? These go on the starter, but they're completely gone from this one. I mean, totally gone. I couldn't even fix this one. So they're trash. Going over to this other side, this is the light harness. Basically, it runs the alternator and all the lights in the front of the car. So we have brake proportioning valve. This is the alarm switch, which is gone. So we have those on there. We also have, remember that it was held together by a hose clamp, like all these two wires right here. So one goes right here, but as you go up here, here's where the alternator is. So there's, you know, 3 wires, but there's really should be more than 3. So this is the temp sender for the engine. This is a ground. These are for the alternator, but they're gone from here, and then all the rest are just chopped off. So all that, all the way to the back, was completely cut and missing and gone. So I'm going to have to rewire that in, but that's not a problem. I mean, this is pretty simple. And the best part about it is that they come with these cool diagrams that show you exactly where everything goes and what color it is. And it's pretty plug and play, self-explanatory, and this will take me a lot less time to do than it will take me to troubleshoot and try to splice in and make better that old harness. So definitely the way to go. Here's the other side. Yep, all there and self-explanatory. It's pretty neat. Alright, moving right along. So I've plugged in the harnesses right there. And the alarm switch, since they glassed over the hole, which made me think it was a late 77, but it's an early 77, I won't hook those up. This goes to the air conditioning. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I've attached the brake pressure warning switch. I've done all of this for the alternator and the temperature sending unit. And then what they don't say is right here, all of this needs to go through between the radiator support and the inner fender. I'll show you. So here's my beautiful looming of the alternator. So you have the connector, you have the power, and then you have the ground below it, and then the temperature sending unit. But after that, the harness gets weaved through there. There's a little gap where all the harness needs to go. And all of this is what was missing on the old harness. So there's a couple things you need to know. First is that for your front turn signals and stuff, there's an auxiliary harness that you probably should have on your old one. Let me show you what it looks like. For as expensive these harnesses are, I'm kind of surprised they don't come with something like this, but this is one off of this car, so I kept it because I knew I was going to use it. Then you have the ground for the radiator support. That goes in this hole right there. Then you have, that's for a horn, that's for a second horn, this is for a marker. And then you have your headlights on your driver's side. You have ground. And then you have the identical thing on this side. 2 headlight plugs, marker light plug, and then an extension for the front blinkers. So this attaches to this bar on this inside lip right here. There's holes in it, and that's where these attach into it, and it just looms itself up really, really nicely. And then it's not bad. And there's no reason to cut it out, and there's no reason to do what the previous owner did. So I don't see any horns under there, so that might be a issue for another day, but I'm going to crawl into there and install it all, and then we'll move on to the engine harness. Alright, we're back doing the engine harness, and this one's a little bit more difficult than the lights harness just because it has to weave in and out of so many different places. So it comes out from the box right here. It goes in between the brake lines and the car body. It goes underneath the steering shaft. You can see it right there. And then you have your first connection, which is your oil pressure sender right here. Right there. And then it weaves up between 2 separate different little clamps. And it weaves up through here. You have to take the wiper motor off, which I did, and you have to snake the harness around the back of the wiper motor. Then you have your 12 volts for your distributor, you have your tack wire, you have your wiper motor control and your wiper motor ground. Next over here, we have, this is going to go unused because the AC harness that was in this car has been replaced with modern. And then here's the hood ajar switch leads, which were supposed to be a switch right here, but they moved it to put this there, so what can you do? Then we have a ground, which is being shared with some aftermarket grounds. And the last two ones really are just, you have your power feed from your starter, and then this is for your S terminal on your starter. So this has a mini starter, so instead of using this ring terminal, I have to put on one of these spade connectors, the female spade connector, to get that to fit, because it's not the stock starter anymore. But other than that, all the wiring is done. And my favorite part is, you really can't, I mean, the wiring doesn't jump out at you as, oh my gosh. It just kind of blends in like it's supposed to. Now, there's other parts of this car that now jump out at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But, you know, we'll get to that point when we get to that point. With all this wiring done, I feel like it's less likely to burn to the ground. So next, after that, I have to figure out wiring up this radiator fan, and that might be an issue or a chore. So we'll see how that goes. It should be pretty simple. I mean, it should just need power and a ground and a switch, or a relay. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But there's a bunch of other wires down there, way more wires than I was thinking there was for that. So